I'm gonna stop laughing. I'm gonna introduce you.
Sorry, I was reading Twitter.
Stop doing things outside of focusing.
I apologize.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to my channel. Today with me, I have a very special guest that I've been trying to get on here for a while. You wouldn't even believe the technical issues we've had. Cleeton, and your Twitter is highhands89. I don't know, 89, is that the year we're born, or like the amount of World Series of Poker bracelets you're trying to win? You actually are famous for 2018. You won a seat in the main event through Daniel Negreanu, through like a video contest he held. And out of the 3 people that won, you lasted the longest, aka you cashed, and the other 2 only made day 2. Yeah, did you rub it in their face?
And Daniel didn't cash. So,
and Daniel didn't cash! In your face!
I mean, transitive property dictates that at that moment I was better than Daniel Negreanu, which, you know, I mean...
And I tweeted that you said that, and now you've made that come true. I feel like I'm a poker psychic.
I mean, I made a prophecy, a prophet out of you. You are now a prophet. So
I am a prophet, poker's prophet. I can tell when people are cheating too. So you have a really interesting story. I just want to point out that your Twitter page, I didn't know that that was your dad. So your dad's semi-famous too, and your dad plays poker too, and he kind of is your motion for looking at cards and telling you how does that process work? Like, he looks at the cards and he whispers to you?
No. So essentially the way that we always define it is he's the hands on the brain. So he just peels them. I look at him.
Oh, okay.
By definition, he sees them as well because he has to like make sure that I can see them. Like we're sitting right next to each other.
You sure you want to 4-bet the 7 deuce, son?
I mean, we have to put it in our 4-bet fold range occasionally.
We have to have a balanced, polarized 4-betting range, Dad.
Hashtag balance. Yeah, I'm not a fan. It's good. Fortunately for us, verbal is binding in poker. So because I verbalize all my action, whatever I say is what we do, which is nice because if you're at a casino where like your 500s and your 5,000s kind of look like identical, which we've been in that spot before. Yes. If I say 2,500 and he puts out 5,000 chips, which I don't know how I would have that many chips and only bet that amount, but whatever. Then it's not standing because I said 2,500. So that's kind of cool. But
I know you were telling me that someone had an issue once with you said the verbal bet and then he put out a chip and someone was like, "Hey, wait a second." You were telling me about that.
So we've had a few fun. I wouldn't call them controversial. Maybe they were controversial. I thought they were fun. Basically, people just not really knowing how to react, I think, is a good way to put it because it is such a unique thing. I mean, not very often do you have an extra person at the table who isn't playing. I mean, point of fact, I can't tell you how many times a new dealer has sat down for a down and just like dealt out an extra hand, and we're like, we already do this. I mean, I'd have loved to play PLO, but I don't think anybody else wants to.
Yeah, you're the only one playing. Yeah.
Exactly. But yeah, no, we've had a few interesting scenarios where a player's like, wait, hold on, who's playing? Who's making the action? We actually had one really interesting one, a well-known circuit grinder I won't name names, but we were playing at an event, and we ran a hand together, and before we got to the flip, he just had to know to my dad, "Sir, do you know how to play poker?" Like he was just asking him, like, "Do you play poker?" Like not professional. I don't think that was what his, you know, purpose was. Like, do you simply know the rules, or do you know the particulars? And we're like, I mean, yeah, and we're all sitting at the table. I think it's a pretty safe assumption that all of us at least know the rules of the game. You know, it was a funny situation because I don't know what type of read he was hoping to get, but actually at that circuit stop, Dad's got in the habit of. It was funny. It looked like one of those European players. He would just like go into a little turtle shell and like just, was like, "I'm not giving anything away." It was just kept
He had
pulling
his
the hat.
hoodie all the way, just like only his nose.
He had his high hands '89 card holder hat on, and he would pull the bill way down low. He had to tell it's like a background badass from like a rap video. Yeah, just like the dude
A background,
sitting,
an extra.
and it's like just like a badass dude, just like sitting there with like a 40 and his hat pulled really down low and just hanging out like bobbing his head to the beat. That's kind of what it looks like, except you know he's white and at a poker table. So
So now I asked you before if your dad plays, and one unique, dynamic I would think would come up is, him. I'm sure that you guys follow the rules appropriately, but on the way home, I'm wondering if there's ever conversations like, "Hey, did you really want to play that hand out of position? Like, I didn't like that. What were you thinking?" Do you guys have these conversations?
yeah, so not always exactly like that, but I can't tell you the number of times where we thought my hand was different. Like he saw one hand, like he thought we had like King Jack and the board was like Broadway. He's like, yeah, afterwards he's like, you just folded it straight. And I'm like, no, I folded second pair on a really coordinated board because I'm like, I had King Queen and he's behind there right now going, no, you didn't, you had it straight. But I mean, so yeah, we
At least
have
he's not fighting
some.
with you at the table, though.
Oh no,
That would
no,
be awkward.
no, no. But it is funny though because on break, you've got 15, 20 minutes, and it's always like, uh, didn't we throw the boat? And I'm like, yes, Dad, I did throw the boat, but don't worry, he had quads, so it's totally fine. We've actually had that conversation. I did not have a boat. He still holds that I did. I did not. I'm right, and that's all there is to it. But no,
The only
it's
way you
fun.
can fold a boat to quads is if you're Veronica and it's a bomb pot.
Okay, she's not.
Oh
No
my
way.
god, she folds! That is insane! Veronica!
And
Oh my god!
Oh my god. She mucked the king 10 earlier as well.
Oh
Few
my
really big
god!
folds.
Veronica, what?
I am 110% confident I did not have a boat. He's 110% confident that I did, in fact, have a boat. However, my eyes are younger, so I believe them.
So let's talk about why you need your dad to help you out. You have spinal muscular atrophy. Do you want to tell us how this started, if you were born with it, and how it's affected your play or ability to play?
Yeah, so it's a genetic neuromuscular disease. Basically, the signals that go from my brain to my muscles, there is a disconnect that happens in that process. So the signals actually never reach my muscles. And because of that, I have severe atrophy of the muscles, which, if you're not in the medical profession, basically that just means that they're kind of like just not there. I mean, you're a nurse, you could probably give a much better.
That sounds about right, because atrophy, that's the description of it. Yeah.
Yeah, so basically because of that, there are a bunch of different like levels of SMA. Some people that have SMA, they can move their arms and feed themselves. Some people that have really, really like advanced, it's actually called Werdman-Hoffman. It's technically a different variation of the same idea. Like people with that, they don't live past a year or two. I have a form that is, it's severe enough that I describe myself as being paralyzed from the neck down, but I feel everything. So if I have an itch, I need someone to scratch it. If I need a drink, then I need to have someone give me a drink, and so on and so forth, which goes to why I need someone to show me my cards and move my chips and so on and so forth. But I am, super fortunate because my parents are my primary caregivers, and I've said it on basically anytime I've ever had the chance to, interact with people publicly and talk about me and what we do. I'm in a really unique and lucky position that I'm actually, my parents aren't just my parents. They're my best friends. Like we don't have a normal parental child type of. Well, we do, but you understand what I'm getting at. I don't dread that I hang out with my family day in day out. My dad is obviously, well, he's right behind me, so I won't say too many nice things. I don't want to get stuck in the room and not be able to get his head.
You gotta still level him by like keeping him on edge.
Yeah, just in check. No, but I mean, in all seriousness, my dad's obviously my biggest supporter, and I mean, if it wasn't for him and mom, I mean, they're the ones that are like, if I say, hey, I want to go play poker, they're like, okay. There's not like, wouldn't you rather have a job at a company? Which actually, funny enough, we live in a really small town, so not a lot of like job, opportunities. For me, I have a degree in advertising, and we actually showed up to a job interview one time. Obviously, he was with me. The door wasn't automatic, so I had to have somebody open it. No, I'm just kidding. But he was talking to, I forget who it was, either before or after. I don't really recall the exact timing, but essentially the gist of where the conversation turned once they realized I'm in a wheelchair, they were like, "Oh dear, I don't even think our bathrooms are accessible." And it was funny to us, and the reason it was funny to us was A, that's asinine and illegal, and that's just wrong morally. But also, it doesn't apply to me because I don't need to use the facilities during the day. I use the facilities in the morning and then at night. Once I'm in my wheelchair, I remain in my wheelchair for the whole day. So I don't. That's not a thing. And we were explaining that to them, but that was like all they could think about. That was the thing that was like, oh, we can't hire you because of this. And we were like, okay, well, fine, whatever.
Let's not fucking talk about the bathrooms anymore. Let's talk about the job.
I was like, I mean, if you need me to do stuff, I'd be more than happy to show you, how I can be valuable to your company. And they were like, yeah, but what if you have to use the bathroom? I was, okay, fine, whatever. But yeah,
So,
it's funny.
yeah, well, I mean, you've created another path for yourself. So you got into poker, and when you and I first spoke, we were talking about Range Trainer Pro, which is you're one of the founders, but you gave me this interesting, unique background as to why you started it. So can you tell us a little bit about your come up story and like playing 1-3 and your struggles and why it pushed you towards Range Trainer?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm a lot like probably most other semi-serious poker players of my age. I came up during the moneymaker boom, and one of the kids that was not quite 18, so was not quite legal to play, but hey, their parents had an account, so who cares if they actually played on it? Wink, wink, nod, nod.
The
That type of
feds are
thing.
outside your door, by the way.
Exactly, they're out there. I can sense them.
I'm the
But
psychic.
yes, but it was one of those deals where I think that experience is relatable to a lot of folks that are my age, and with that, kind of progression and timing also came a ton of training sites. Razor Edge, Upswing. Now Fedor has a site. Jonathan Little has a site. I'm heavily involved in a new site, relatively new, Learn Pro Poker from Ryan LaPlante. I'm biased. I think we have the best train site out there. But everybody has ranges that they give you on their site. They all, have your standard opening ranges, or your 3-bet ranges, etc., etc. They don't tell you how to learn them. They don't tell you, hey, this is what your range should look like, but here is a tool to actually aid in getting better. And it was so frustrating to me because as I started to take poker more seriously and wanted to learn, wanted to, maybe not become a pro, but, at least become a decent winning-ish player, it was like banging your head against the wall because everybody tells you, hey, knowing your ranges is important, but they don't help you learn them. They just give you an image and say, here you go. And basically what that amounted to was the flashcard method. You would look at it, cover it up, and then see if you could recreate it. But it's not a good way to learn. It's not how humans learn. And I knew that, but I didn't have the skills at that point in order to articulate what would be helpful to people, how people could learn better. Um, and I spent about 2 years thinking about that. And I know people are gonna be like, well, you just thought about it. But like the thing is when you're trying to create something that is changing the way that people learn, something that is kind of completely separate from what people have been doing thus far. Because thus far, the common knowledge was here's your ranges, figure it out yourself. Good luck. And I think when you're trying to change that paradigm, you only have one chance to do it and do it well. And so because of that, I spent a lot of time thinking, okay, what's the best way that would help the most amount of people to make learning easier? And I did research on how do humans learn? I mean, like literally like scientific articles. How do people memorize things? How do people, there's the 10,000 hours rule and muscle memory. And does that apply to the brain? Can muscle memory apply to actually thinking? And what I realized was the best way to learn ranges was to actually be at a poker table and play. But that's expensive because
Mhm.
it forces you to play poker. And if you're learning how to play poker, there's a massive skill edge and you're going to lose money. And people don't have the money to just blow in order to give themselves that education, which, they'll spend tens of thousands of dollars on college education. But that's actually going to get you prospects. So my plan was put people in real world situations using ranges that they either define or were defined by a third party, meaning like a training site or something similar, and then actively force themselves to think about what the range should look like in dozens of situations.
Yeah,
So
so
every position, every stat depth.
let's open up the site and share your screen, because going off of that, I want to let people know the cool thing about this is you can purchase the range packages, or you can, like you said, put in your own ranges if you are using other ranges.
Exactly. So something I will announce that is kind of exclusive, I guess. We've been working somewhat quietly, unless you've been really reading between the lines. We are developing a tool that will allow you to import, if you have like bunker ranges from a third party, then you don't want to spend extra money on ranges, but you also don't want to take the time to manually input the ranges. We're working on a tool that will allow you to upload those bunker text files, and it will automatically populate for you what, in our system. So that way you don't have to go through all of the manual effort of doing it yourself. It's still a bit off, but it's a big deal because lots of people already have ranges, but they love the way that we have set up our site and the fact that you can take the ranges with you everywhere you go because it's on your it's A, in the cloud, and B, our site is optimized for mobile. So if you have ranges already, generally you can only access them on a desktop, which if you're playing live is not super ideal if you're wanting to check a specific scenario. So if you go to rangetrainerpro.com, you're going to be automatically sent to the app. And once you're here, you can make an account. I'm already logged in. You're going to have your ranges. You're going to add ranges. All of your ranges go inside of a range pack. So you can have range packs for loose tables, tight tables, 3-bet ranges, cold telling ranges, all sorts of stuff. And then you have the training feature. We can
Which
start
is my
wherever
favorite
you.
part of the
Well,
page.
then we will start there.
Let's start with just scroll down and let's see the co-founder and head coach
Yeah.
of Learn Pro Poker, who's a part of this.
So Ryan the Plant, I'm sure most people know of the name. Bracelet winner, almost had his second bracelet last summer, but he got pretty bad beat for a second. Anyway, he is the head coach and co-founder of Learn Pro Poker. So whenever we offer ranges, right now they are tournament centric ranges, but basically Range Trainer Pro as an application, meaning me and my business partner Matt. Uh, we're not right now in the position to give folks ranges that we personally have built. I want to make sure that when we start building ranges, I'm spending the appropriate amount of time and energy to make rock solid ones. Fortunately, I'm involved with Learn Pro Poker, and I know for a fact that their tournament ranges are kick ass.
So let's take a look at the range options that people have.
Let me pop open my ranges. It'll be easier to show. So the range track that we have available right now is raise first in ranges. We have 8 positions. So for those that don't know, these are solved by Monker. And Monker maxes out at 8 max. So right now, software just isn't able to do 9 and 10 max. But, you know, we can make inferences on what, you know, earlier position would look like if it's a 9 max versus an 8 max. But with all that, you know, we've got EP all the way through small blind. And when we open it, you can see that we have mixed frequency options. And show even more. This is a even better example showing all the options. So this is button on 17 big blinds, and this is your playing range. So we are calling a very, very high frequency, meaning we're open limping when folded to us, and then we're jamming at a very, very high frequency.
Oh,
And then
God, I'm playing so tight. This is so bad when I look at this.
But I mean, it's really eye-opening. So a lot of people are like, well, Tam, I'm always hearing you talk about how you don't follow GTO. So why are you, promoting GTO ranges? In my mind, and I think in most people's minds that spend a lot of time thinking about poker, GTO is your foundation. It's your starting point. It's the place from which kind of, that is the framework where you want to begin working. When you exploit, meaning you deviate from GTO, you're doing so based on your table, who the people are behind, who, who's in the blinds, who's in position, etc., etc. But a really, really good kind of like wake up call, I think, for a lot of people is this range right here, 17 big blinds on the button. This range is GTO, meaning if you had Fedor Holtz and Justin Bonomo in the big blind and the small blind, this is the range you should be using, because that is the foundation, the ground floor, which means that we have exceedingly fun players behind. We can drastically open up our range in order to leverage our post flop edge theoretically. And that's a really fun concept when you start diving into some of these ranges and seeing, okay, if I had absolute sickos behind me, what would my range look like? Oh, okay. Well, now that I have a bunch of fun players behind me, how can I move this range in order to make more money, in order to exploit them and hopefully increase your win rate? And so diving into these right here is honestly one of the funnest parts of the application.
And this is an opening range, right? From the button
This
with
is-
17
this is
big
a-
blinds?
Yeah, this is it folds to you and your first action. You get to make
So,
first action.
okay, so you would have to create your own range for a 3-betting out of the button range with 17 big blinds.
You absolutely would. However, we are I'm gonna kind of change gears, if you don't mind.
When you hover, can I just,
Yeah.
I just wanted to just show them real quick when you hovered over it. That's like one of my favorite things is like you can get when you're go to the queen jack off, because I think that's got a good split.
There we
So
go.
you got 40%, 60%. 40% I'm assuming is a call and 60% is a raise.
Yes, exactly. So here is a good one as well. Right here, we're folding 0. We are calling, limping 70%. We are raising, just min raising 10% of the time, and we're jamming 20% of the time. Now, most people are gonna be like, how in the hell do you define that? Well,
Jamming? Okay. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
20%. No, yeah, you're jamming 20% of the time. And basically the reason why is because you want to have some ace X that is not real draws, and ace X or ace 6 is just a pretty decent option because it's not going to play as well post flop as ace 7 or better. And also you're going to have really good blocker effects having an ace and only 2 people left to go. And
Such a fish. Like I would literally never consider jamming there with an ace 6. I'd open for sure if folded to me. And is the consideration the same if you have like mid position also limping?
Well, that would definitely change the dynamic. However, I will say this. In the next iteration, which, if you don't mind, I'm going to change gears just to illustrate something. We're going to pop over here and it's going to be a random situation. So right now, the training feature is obviously optimized for race first 10.
Yeah, so let's tell the people that like the range we just looked at, you're then pulling into here, you're picking your position, and you're just going through this position without seeing a flop, without seeing a board, and just constantly practicing your ranges.
Exactly. So right now I have randomized turn on, which means it's going to give me literally a random situation. But you can absolutely come in here and filter for position and stat depth. Right now, a limitation that we are aware of and will be addressing is being able to set multiple filters. So you could set like, I want to see only cut off and hijacked on 30, 40, and 60 big blinds. So we are implementing that in the future. But something that's really interesting is another thing that we are excited to be implementing is the ability to train versus opens or versus 3-bets or versus limps. So what we'll do is whenever you add a range, you'll be defining what the situation is. So you'll say MP and MP2, sorry, MP raised, and I'm in the cutoff, and we are 40 big blinds effective. And you'll be able to define what you're calling, raising. I guess you might have a jamming range. I doubt you would, but you'll be able to define what the range would look like, and then whenever you come in here to training, the graphics will actually show you the action that has occurred, who's in the hand, what what has happened, and then give you a hand and say, what do you want to do? And then whenever you do so, no matter what training you're doing, you can define the weight and then choose your option. So let's say, for argument's sake, that this was 50% call and 50% raise. Obviously it's not, but let's just say, for argument's sake, it is. That means you set this to 50. Both answers are right. So whatever you choose, as long as you got the frequency correct, then you get extra points based on that. And the point system is a whole thing that we can talk about later. But basically, the idea is that no matter what you personally want to use as a randomizer for when you are supposed to do a mixed frequency play, you can choose to do that randomizer in the app and tell it, okay, I know that I'm supposed to raise this hand 75% of the time. I'm going to set the bar to 75 and then hit raise. Or the same hand is a call 25% of the time. Well, my randomizer dictates that this is a call. So I'm going to set the bar to 25% and hit call. So it's meant to be organic and realistic.
When are you going to have these updates that you were just talking about where you can put in a bit more action and effective blinds or effective blind amounts?
Yeah, so that is the part where we are a bit up in the air, and the reason why is my co-founder, Matt McElliott, actually has a day job. He is not a RangeTrainerPro 100% of the time, and oddly enough, building an app from scratch is really freaking hard. I don't know if you're aware about coding or anything like that. I mean, I had no idea. But
No idea about software, nothing.
exactly, no idea. But you know, it's a lot of investment in time to build this. So I wish I had a better answer for you. I really don't. What I can tell you is there are some machinations happening on the in the background that if they work out, he's going to have about a month, hopefully, of time where he's going to be able to grind out some very serious time and implement a whole bunch of changes. I don't have a timeline, but what I can tell you is this. If you want to make an account on rangetrainerpro.com, it's free. Make an account. All you have to do is put in your email address and then make a password. And what we're doing is that list of emails is what will end up being our listserv. So when we send out information about updates, that's the best way to do it. Also, following us on Twitter at RangeTrainerPro, that is going to be a great way to get updates as I am constantly, posting about little updates that we do as well as the big updates. We are in a really cool spot because I am a firm believer that this is made for poker players by poker players. Obviously, I play poker. Matt is also a recreational poker player. He enjoys playing. And so we're not some like dev team that's trying to fill a need and not really know what the hell anybody actually wants. And the reason I say that is because I legitimately want to hear from folks about ways that we can make the app more useful. I can't guarantee you we're going to implement all of the feedback that we get or all the ideas, but I can guarantee that you're at least going to be heard and responded to. And we're going to take everything that we hear under advisement, unless you tell me like to make it free. I'm sorry, I'm not going to do that. But what I will tell you is you can sign up for a free account and save ranges for free. The only thing you won't have, the free account doesn't give you, is the weighted aspect. So the free ranges are that you can upload are just A/B decisions. It's either a play or a not play. You can't dictate call, raise, all in, fold, etc., and so forth.
So can you show
So
me how
yeah,
to add a range? Because I know you
yeah,
showed me last time we went over this, but I think it'd be really fun for the viewers to see if they're interested in starting to create their own ranges, even with the free version.
Absolutely. So I actually have a sample here. Normally, what you do is you need to start by adding a range pack.
And
Like
once
I
you guys
said,
upgrade with people being able to upload their ranges, it'll be here too.
yes, all of those tools will be implemented in this page right here.
Oh, that
But
page. Okay.
when you add a range pack, all ranges must go in a range pack. It's like a folder, for lack of a better term. But once you define a name, I already have sample. We'll just make something for MP.
And the most we can do
50
is 100 big blinds right now.
Yeah, he hasn't pushed that update, but we are going to be launching 125, 150, 200, 250, 300, 400, and 500.
If you want to appeal to the Bay Area players, you got to make it 1,000.
Okay, we want 1,000.
We need 7-bet ranges.
Okay, no problem. You want it, you got it. I can do that, no problem. So yeah, we're gonna. I will admit I have a bias. I'm a tournament player, and that is not fair to Tashian players. And so I definitely value that input from people who do play Tash because, I mean, I'm a tournament guy. I never play 1,000 big blinds deep. Like, that's just not a thing that you have.
Well, you know, a lot of the casinos out here have stack match games. And then in like 5-10, there's no cap. And so you'll have a game that's playing like a 5-5 or a 2-5, but they have a straddle that can be more than double the big blind, and people stack match or don't have a cap. And then you end up with these very bloated games that have an appearance of being smaller based on the blinds.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, that's an inherent bias in my own experience, and so that's why I'm super grateful to have input from folks. But let's just say that we're gonna make a really boring vanilla tournament 50 big blind range. So
LOL. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. LOL. So what we can do is we can come up here and this is not a random slider. So you can see that the hands don't just fill in like you would think that 35% of hands would include all pairs.
Right.
It doesn't. And the reason why it doesn't is because our slider is set up to be what hands have the most equity. So it goes from the most equity to the least equity. So like deuces is all the way down here in the 60% range.
I'm a little bit shocked right now, and this is why I'm bad at poker.
So I mean, this is kind of bananas, right? Now I'm sure.
I'm like, ace 7 off, it has more equity than some pairs, and this is why I need this in my life.
So I'm sure that there's really people out there in the comments that are like, well, actually, what it is
Yeah, I know.
basically what we've done is we've taken the hand matrix, this hand matrix, and basically applied what we consider to be best practices, which are used by many of the best equity calculators, and we've taken that and applied it to ours. So basically, my entire goal with this app is to take the best parts of all sorts of different other tools and apply them to this. And eventually, what I hope is that a year from now, I can come back on the show and definitively state that RangeTrainerPro is the one-stop shop for every poker player to do all sorts of things. But now that I'm off that diatribe, let's just say that we have an exceptionally soft table. We have like old man coffees, and that's about it behind us. They're just doing
Let's
to
call it a
full.
Veronica and Friends. Yes.
There you go. So they're just doing to massively overfold to our raises. Okay. Let's say that we want to create a non-GTO exploitative range, meaning we are absolutely trying to
That
punish.
king deuce off. That's ripe for the picking right there.
We are trying to punish our opponents for being nits. We are like, you are nitty, and we are going to punish you. And so we are just going to raise an asinine amount. Or we could be like, you know what? These players are actually pretty decent. Let's use something, a bit more reasonable. So when I open all my king suited kings, when I open that, this is still pretty loose, but I could see this being like maybe a live tournament range when we had like one tournament reg behind us who we're not super worried about, but hey, let's not get too out of line.
So you also said that this is like a binomial distribution, but you can go square by square and put in your distribution of fold, call, raise, or all in.
Absolutely. So let me bring up my trusty keyboard here. And
of course, if you're going all in when everyone folds to you with 50 big blinds, we've got a party.
You should probably go play slots, because you're probably not going to last very long.
Hey, tequila might be an influence. You stop. You don't tell people what to do.
I love tequila. So if you hold the shift key, it's just like many other applications. You can multi-select. So I'm just gonna make a random selection here. It defaults to raise, but we could say, you know what, I'm gonna raise half and limp half. Because remember, this exact scenario is it folded to us. Boom. So you can absolutely do that.
Yeah, so I think it's a little deceiving to say that it's just like raise or fold. It's actually, you can change it.
Well, this is with the subscription. So if you don't have a subscription, you would be.
Oh, you can't do this without a subscription, make your own ranges like this?
You can make the ranges without the weights. So the weights is what we would get.
Man, it's like a cup of coffee a month. A cup of coffee in Silicon Valley a month to get this.
I'm with you on that. See, like that, people can believe me or not. I don't really give a damn. But to me, I'm really, really frustrated that poker knowledge is prohibitively expensive. It bothers me that some training sites charge you $1,200 for a course. It bothers me that some apps like this are $20 per month for practicing, because I don't know if they just forgot or they don't care, but when you're trying to learn how to play, the chances that you have $1,200 just laying around to throw at getting better is like slim to none. You know, the chances that you can just throw money at something is slim to none.
Especially when it
so,
takes the PLO dealer 10 minutes to tell you you've lost the pot because the ace of hearts does not win with 4 hearts on the board.
exactly. I mean,
I'm not saying that happened to me the first time I played PLO. But yeah, go on.
hey man, it happens. I've been there. But I don't want to sound like I'm like, oh, high and mighty or whatever, but like that shit actually bothers me. It frustrates me, and
Yeah.
so that's why we've made a very concerted effort to try to make this as affordable as humanly possible, while still, actually making it a viable product that will be, possible for us to continue to develop and improve and whatnot. I will mention that the subscription is only going to get more valuable as we introduce things like equity calculators and things like that. Right now, if you want to buy Power Ecolab, for example, that's going to cost you $45 a year, whatever it is. Well, we're going to build something basically that exact thing, but in a mobile version that you'll be able to access on any device into our app. It'll obviously be doing the same types of Monte Carlo calculations, but you won't have to, for example, input the range manually, because you'll be able to say, oh, hey, I was in the big blind and the cutoff opened, and this was my defending range, and this was the flop. What was my equity versus their range? And so you'll be able to do all those things with just a push of a button.
So tell
the
me,
range,
once I put in my range,
Mhm.
can I go to the trainer with that range?
Yeah, so let me save this because sample viewer.
That's the weirdest range I've ever seen, but yeah.
Yeah, it's a weird. Like,
I know, I'm
it'll
just
be
giving you a hard
it'll
time.
be it'll be fun for illustrative purposes. So and boom. Now we're only
Okay.
going to see these spots. That's a raise. Oh, that was not a raise. I took it back out. That's a raise. That's a fold. That's a raise. See? I'm a genius. I'm the best poker player in the world on my native range. But yeah, you can absolutely do that. And if you're like getting something wrong and you want to come in here and look,
I love this.
you can come
Is there
in
a way
here
to export this?
not right now, but that's a genius idea, and we will figure out how to put that in. I like that. That's a really good idea.
Yeah, that would
Just
be great because it's already in like a spreadsheet looking thing, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. So the nice thing about this is that we got this wrong. Well, hey, what is the range? Yeah, it tells you right here, but that's like not nice. Like it doesn't look nice. I want it to look nice. So we can come over here. Oh, this is the range. This is what it's supposed to be. Perfect. Okay. And then we can go back and we can restart training. Now the counter will reset because this store up here is actually going to mean something at some point in the future. We're going to implement leaderboards, and basically, we're going to make like fun little monthly or quarterly competitions where the people with the most points get like neat prizes, like maybe a free month to learn pro poker, or you know, something, I don't know, merchandise, whatever. And we're gonna do some fun little competitions. And because we don't want people to be able to like open up the range and look at what the range is supposed to be, and then go and get the right answer, we make it where it automatically resets to 0. That way people can't like cheat and game the system. But if you go through all 50 questions, all 50 questions show up in uh, the hand history viewer, and if you want to look through all of them, find out, hey, where you're kind of missing some spots, or like, man, I really seem to be getting a lot wrong in middle position between 30 and 50 big blinds. You'll be able to kind of tell where your weaknesses are, and then train just in those scenarios to really make sure that you're solid. For people who are familiar with Learn Pro Poker, you'll know that Ryan's probably his favorite thing in the world to say is happy open. If you played a drinking game where every time you heard him say happy open, you would die. You would literally die. And so I think what we're gonna do is introduce some sort of Easter egg where if you somehow do something, I'm not going to tell you what it is that you'll need to do, otherwise it's not an Easter egg. But we're going to do something that will introduce something where when you make it happen, a little GIF is going to come up with like Ryan and something it'll say like happy open. So yeah, it'll be a fun thing, I guarantee you. And whoever finds it first is going to get a free year of the site as well. So if you find it first and send it to us, we're going to give you a free year because that's who we are, and it's a fun thing.